Hi, my name is Rob Wakely and I'm the Chief of Bonner County EMS. And behind me you see a beautiful view in Bonner County. This video was produced to demonstrate how we provide EMS ambulance services in this area. We're going to be showing you the places, introducing you to the people, and giving you a tour of the equipment that we use to achieve our goals. It'll run the gamut from showing you the back of an ambulance to demonstrating what a paramedic fly car is, what it's used for, and you'll even see our partner helicopter services, LifeLight, in action at the Sandpoint Airport. We hope you enjoy viewing this video as much as we've enjoyed making it. The Bonner County EMS system is a hybrid system utilizing most forms of EMS organizations, including fire-based EMS, third service government EMS, nonprofit volunteer, and nonprofit professional EMS. The ambulance transport agencies are all under contract and receive compensation for their services. Including first responder agencies, there are 10 fire departments actively participating in the system. Our county has become a successful model of how diverse service delivery methods can be integrated into a single system. The map you're looking at shows our almost 2,000 square mile county with call distributions plotted from an 18-month period. The darker the blue, the higher the concentration of EMS calls. Our system transport providers include Bonner County EMS with stations in Sandpoint and Priest River, Priest Lake EMTs and Clark Fork Valley Ambulance as nonprofit volunteer agencies, Newport Ambulance as a professional nonprofit agency, and Spirit Lake Fire, Sagal Fire, and Schweitzer Fire as fire-based partners. Spirit Lake Fire is part of the Kootenai County EMS system, but they operate in a portion of Bonner County under a mutual aid agreement. One fire department acts as medical first responders on all types of EMS calls. Sandpoint Fire. They respond to all medical calls, basic life support, intermediate life support, and advanced life support within the city limits. And also, they staff a backup ambulance. 5 other fire departments respond only to advanced life support calls. That's Northside Fire, Clark Fork Fire, Sam Owen Fire, Westside Fire, and West Ponderay Fire. This year, we're welcoming Coolin-Kavanaugh Bay Fire in the Priest Lake area to our roster of first responders. This will bring the total number of fire departments based in Bonner County now in our EMS system at 9. This is significant because as recently as 2009, that number was only 2. The First Response Fire Agency receives supplies, equipment, training, and expense reimbursement for EMS costs. We have become and continue to strive to be a model of how diverse organizations can come together to deliver a consistent, high-quality pre-hospital care service. The key to our system continues to be collaboration. We've become leaders in the provision of rural and wilderness EMS in the state of Idaho. We chair the State Advisory Council, have representation on the Education and Exam Rules Task Force, the Agency Licensure Rules Task Force, and the Idaho Department of Transportation Strategic Plan Task Force. Our clinical practice guidelines have been adopted or are in the process of being adapted for other agencies in the state, including Kootenai County EMS. We've been invited to present our innovative programs at local, state, national, and international venues. Our total system call volume in 2012 was 4,242 calls, and about 39%, or 1,639, were dispatched as ALS, requiring a paramedic response. The countywide average response time for 2012 was 9 minutes and 4 seconds.
Hi, I'm Brad Minton, Fire Chief, Northside Fire District. We have partnered up with Bonner County EMS to provide advanced life support to Northside Fire District.
My name is Russ Shank. I'm the president of Clark Fork Valley Ambulance Service. We're an ILS ambulance service with 2 ambulances serving the eastern side of Bonner County.
My name is Steve Groom. I'm CEO of Newport Emergency Services. We provide ambulance transport services for Ponderay County, Washington and Bonner County, Idaho. We cover a primary service area along the Idaho border, and we provide backup paramedic coverage for Bonner County EMS. And together we share employees, and it works very well for us.
I'm Dale Hopkins, Assistant Chief, Westside Fire District. We're a BLS First Response Agency in partnership with Bonner County EMS.
I am Les Cocanis, Chief of West Bonner Fire District, and we do extrications and first responding to assist the ambulances between Priest River and Newport.
Hello, my name is Gil Toomey, and I'm president of Priest Lake EMTs Incorporated, and we service the entire Priest Lake area with 2 ambulances and an extrication vehicle that we use for both on-road and off-road purposes.
Hi, this is Spencer Newton, Fire Chief with the Schweitzer Fire District, and we provide transport ambulance service for the Schweitzer community.
Hi, I'm Captain Morbietta with the Sandpoint Fire Department. We respond on all EMS calls within the city limits, non-transport, and we also provide a backup ambulance for Bonner County EMS.
I'm George Cordingley, Fire Chief, Clark Fork Fire and Rescue.
I'm Bob Wathen, Fire Chief, San Juan Fire District.
TJ Eigler, Lieutenant, San Juan Fire District and EMT Basic.
Stu Eigler, Captain, San Juan Fire District and a EMT Basic trainee.
I'm Rick Owis, Clark Fork Fire and Rescue, firefighter and EMT trainee.
I'm Buffy Owis, also with Clark Fork Fire and Rescue and also an EMT Basic trainee.
Hey, we're here this morning to represent the East Pend Oreille Joint Fire Operations Area, which is a amalgamation of a fire district and a city fire department that protects an area approximately 200 square miles of northern Idaho. And we respond to all advanced life support calls in support of the local Clark Fork ambulance.
Hi, I'm Bob Weber, Fire Chief of the Sago Fire District.
Jeff Littlefield, Engineer, Intermediate EMT.
Hi, I'm Renee Hansen for Sago Fire, Captain, and I'm in charge of EMS operations.
Hi, I'm Josh Paulke, firefighter and intermediate EMT.
Sago Fire proudly provides ambulance services to over 200 square miles of South Bonner County with 3 ambulances.
What you're seeing here is the tail end of Clark Fork ambulance with a Bonner County EMS paramedic delivering a patient from the field to the airport for an emergency hot load transfer from Sandpoint to Kootenai Medical Center in Coeur d'Alene. LifeLight has recently opened a flight base here in Bonner County, and they've become an integral part of our EMS response system. Certain procedures for critical emergencies, such as heart attack, strokes, and major trauma, must be done at hospitals either in Coeur d'Alene or Spokane. And in many of these instances, minutes can make the difference between life and death. When we encounter such an emergency, we either request the helicopter come to us to take the patient, or if we're within a few minutes of the airport, as in this case, we bring the patient to the airport for the hot load. LifeLight is also helpful when there's a life-threatening emergency in remote areas of the county. There are many locations that are 30 minutes or more away from a ground ambulance. LifeLight has agreed, upon request, to launch at the time of the call when we have these severe emergencies. They'll find their own landing zone, land, pick up the patient, and head for the hospital long before ground units have a chance to arrive. We're grateful that LifeLight has chosen to come to our county. They make it possible for many of our critically ill and injured patients to arrive at definitive care faster than in many major metropolitan areas.
The quality of care in Bonner County EMS is extremely high. We hire and retain very good paramedics here. Our quality control makes sure of that. The quality assurance process at many other agencies is a punitive process, which we don't believe leads to an improvement in patient care. At Bonner County EMS, we approach quality improvement and assurance with education rather than punishment. And so we see a much greater compliance with our providers as a result. The name of our quality assurance program is called CRAM, Clinical Review and Mentoring, and it encompasses several things. First, of course, quality improvement, quality control. We read through charts and make sure there aren't any major protocol deviations. Secondly, CRAM also deals with the precepting of newly hired and advancing providers. in a consistent manner. We evaluate their progress through their orientation. We also use our CRAM process to critically review new ideas. Whenever a vendor comes in with the latest and greatest invention, we use the test of evidence-based medicine. If there's no evidence that this is the latest and greatest invention and won't benefit the county, then we say no thanks. Many other agencies use an FTO model, a field training officer model, where a newly hired or advancing provider is placed with one person for 3-6 months, however long it takes for them to get cleared. We take a little bit different approach, whereas we have one main mentor that stays with that person and oversees their progress, but that candidate is working with a variety of different preceptors. Whoever's on that shift is their preceptor that day. That allows that candidate to get a more diverse experience and acclimate to our system, I believe, much faster. At Bonner County, we've turned the entire system into a giant think tank. So any provider can come up with an idea for a way to do something better and bring that to the CRAM committee, and it's critically evaluated. And if that actually is a benefit to the system, then we proceed forward with it. Our medical director is Dr. Jenkins, and he specializes in cardiology. He's a cardiologist. So we've been able to stay at the forefront of emergency STEMI care, for example. We have a very progressive protocol for handling patients who have these STEMIs, that's ST, elevation, myocardial infarction, a heart attack in its simplest terms. The challenges that a Bonner County EMS paramedic faces are much different than the challenges that a big city paramedic might face. We have much longer transport times. We're with the patient for maybe hours in extreme cases. And so a paramedic at Bonner County must be much more familiar with the total continuity of care. Every month we have a case reviews meeting where we bring really educational cases that have happened over the past month or two to a round table where that provider who ran that call presents it and has the opportunity to share their experiences with the rest of the providers at Bonner County EMS and receive feedback from the doctor. Personally, I'm constantly learning. I don't ever want to be in the mindset that I've now reached the top of the mountain and I now know it all, because medicine is constantly evolving and there's always more to learn. Especially being a rural paramedic, you can't stop learning.
Hi, I'm paramedic Jeff Lindsay and I'm the operations captain here at Bonner County EMS. Over the next few minutes, I want to give a brief overview of the key integral parts of our daily operations here at BCEMS, which include ambulances and fly cars. We hope you enjoy. Each day, Bonner County EMS responds to medical emergencies throughout our district. Upon receipt of a medical call, the dispatching center notifies BCEMS units of the emergency by radio. BCEMS EMTs and paramedics are able to communicate back to dispatchers via radio, as well as mobile data terminals, or MDCs, mounted in all of our frontline units. The MDCs display all current emergency fire EMS calls, as well as detailed mapping systems to help better pinpoint the location of the emergency. Ambulances are also able to be tracked via AVLs, or automatic vehicle locators, which can be used to better keep track of ambulances and their locations, especially during busy times. Each ambulance is assigned a numeric call sign for dispatching purposes. The SAM-point units are 3580 and 3581, with the Priest River unit number 3585. BCEMS ambulances transport to several area hospitals here in northern Idaho, as well as eastern Washington. The majority of our patients are transported to Bonner General Hospital here in Sandpoint. All Bonner County EMS ambulances meet and exceed national and state requirements for ambulance equipment, including BLS items such as portable and fixed suction apparatus, monitoring and defibrillation equipment, bandages and obstetrical kits, and rescue equipment. ILS equipment includes intravenous supplies, glucagon, epinephrine, and King Airways. We use evidence-based medicine to select and evaluate equipment for use within our system. Because of this process, BCEMS ambulances carry modern, cutting-edge life-saving equipment. A few examples include Stryker Power Pro stretchers, stair chairs for patient removal from difficult areas, and CPAP. BCEMS differs from many other ambulance services nationwide in its deployment of our paramedics. Because paramedics here in Bonner County are at a high commodity, instead of placing paramedics on every ambulance, paramedics are instead placed on fly cars and respond only in extreme emergencies that require ALS or paramedic care. Fly cars are single medic vehicles that carry all the advanced life support equipment that a medic would need on the call. Fly cars are very mobile and can be sent to intercept partner agencies who are requesting a paramedic, or can respond simultaneously with ILS ambulances to an ALS call. If the call is deemed to not need a paramedic, the paramedic will turn the call over to the ILS providers on scene and return immediately to service. This deployment system works very well in Bonner County. Fly cars carry an array of ALS equipment such as medications, IV pumps, and backpack-style ALS bags, which are helpful in the wilderness environment that BCEMS operates. Fly cars are also equipped with LifePak 12 and 15 cardiac monitors, which have the capability to monitor ECG rhythms as well as end-tidal capnography and CO levels.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ronald Jenkins. I'm a cardiologist, and I'm also the medical director for Bonner County EMS System. Have been so for the last 4 years, I believe. And I'm here to speak to you about the STEMI program. STEMI stands for ST elevation myocardial infarction, heart attack, the garden variety heart attack. So we have instituted a program over the last few years, which really has made a radical change in how we in Bonner County manage this type of heart attack, ST elevation, STEMI, myocardial infarction. And let's go back a few years and look at the problem. When I first came into this town in around 2005, the management was somewhat difficult, and perhaps the word is abysmal. And what we noticed that we could not get people from Bonner County down to Kootenai County, where Kootenai Medical Center is, where we could do primary angioplasty to stop a heart attack in its tracks. What we really needed was the ability to take people from the point of presentation, their homes, their place of business, and secondly, if they were brought to the hospital or came to the hospital on their own accord, and we discovered they had a ST elevation myocardial infarction, we wanted to take them directly from the emergency room down to the catheterization lab at Kootenai Medical Center, and we wanted to do it, quickly, within 15 minutes or so. And so that was our goal. And we set out and we looked at all our options, and the best option was to train our paramedics to a critical care transport level. And so we undertook that in 2010, and we were successful in getting the paramedics up to speed. That meant that the paramedics could now give virtually all the medications that are given in the emergency room when people show up with heart attacks. Specifically, we got Kootenai Medical Center to agree to take all STEMI patients sight unseen straight to the cath lab, whether or not somebody spent 20 minutes looking for a bed, which was previously what would happen. You'd call and they'd say, well, let me think and see if we have a bed, hold on, and time would go by. And now it's, no, we'll take the patient absolutely positively, and we will work on finding them a bed after we open the artery and they're out of the frying pan, so to speak. We figured out how to transmit EKGs on our smartphones. What a great idea. And all of a sudden, the cardiologist can see exactly what's coming his way. Sometimes they needed to be stabilized in the emergency room, but every minute spent in the emergency room is really minutes off the outcome, which is open the artery as fast as possible. All the data in the world has now shown the faster you open an artery, the better the outcome. So we instituted this protocol November 1st, I believe, 2010. and we looked at the data for the previous 2 years, and then after 1 year we looked at the data to see how we did. And in fact, we did fabulous. And huge effort is due to the fact that the paramedics from Bonner County EMS made this happen. Everyone else played ball and they facilitated this, but the paramedics made this happen, and it's fabulous to see. So what we saw is the door to balloon time. That is something that we track in circles of those who look at interventional cardiology statistics. Door being really, in this case, EMS to when we open an artery. So the moment the patient sees an EMS person, whether in the emergency room or a paramedic in the field, and to the moment the artery is actually open and blood's flowing and the heart attack is stopped. So what we were able to show is that our door to balloon time went down from 183 minutes to 104 to 107 minutes. So all of a sudden we are where we really needed to be. Complication rate went down from 42% to 5%. So all of a sudden people did much better. They went home sooner, and that was a huge improvement. It's been an excellent program, and I'm very pleased with the genuine efforts by the BCEMS paramedics, by the administration, by the county who supported this, by Bonner General who supported this, by the emergency room physicians, both at Kootenai and at Bonner General, and by the cardiologists that are appreciative to hear about these patients ahead of time, and such that we can be ready to take these patients at the moment they show up at the hospital. We keep looking at ways to improve things, and so we're still trying to figure out the very best cocktail of what do you give a patient when they're on their way to get an artery opened. Along comes a drug that's being studied called Cangrelor. Anyhow, this drug is an equivalent of an intravenous Plavix-like medication. If this drug pans out, which the studies that were presented in March in San Francisco at the American College of Cardiology, those studies go to the FDA. If the FDA agrees, then this drug becomes marketed and will probably be our go-to drug on the ambulance to be given to these patients while they're en route to have their arteries opened. Probably the one big piece that we really need is education of the community. And that's a tough one. And that is getting people to understand the symptoms of a heart attack, getting them to know that if they call 911, EMS will come to them and start the right medications. It appears that still 75% or so of people with heart attacks are sitting around at home for an hour or two doing the denial thing, hoping the symptoms will go away. They finally realize that, okay, this is the real thing, and then they have someone drive them to the emergency room. And that is, I understand it, that's the way it's been for a long time, but if you can get a paramedic to you faster and they can bypass the emergency room, your outcome will be better.
Hi, my name is David Ramsey and I'm the Special Operations Captain here at Bonner County EMS. And I probably have the coolest division out of all of them at Bonner County because I'm in charge of this Special Operations team, which consists of the UTV and ATV during the summer months. And in the winter, we get to drive around on snowmobiles to help out those that are in need. So come along with me on this journey while I introduce you to my most excellent division.
The Bonner County EMS Wilderness Response Team's mission is to provide access to the patient when conventional means are unable to get to the scene. As mentioned, we have snowmobiles and ATVs to enable us to make access regardless of terrain difficulties. We deploy a Skidoo Scandic and a Polaris RMK in the winter and a Yamaha Rhino and Kodiak in the summer. We are able to carry our patients from the scene to a waiting ambulance via an Orion rescue sled that has skis in the winter and wheels in the summer. This facilitates a more expedient means of evacuation that is also less labor intensive than carrying them miles over rough terrain in less than ideal conditions. The team uses a couple different models of deployment. Probably our most common use for the equipment is accessing the patient's residence when the ambulance is unable due to terrain or weather. There were several instances this last winter when the amount of snow and slope of the road made driving a large ambulance to the scene impossible or too dangerous. The snowmobiles were deployed in order to safely access the patient and transport them back to the ambulance. Another type of response the team would deploy is a wilderness rescue. Our role in a rescue is to be the medical resource, but we may still be requested to be in the field for an extended period. To make sure that this is done safely and efficiently, some members have additional training in wilderness medicine, survival, and mountain rescue. Wilderness medicine varies a bit from conventional pre-hospital care. Though based on standard principles of medicine, providers are trained to think past the presenting ailment. 2, rescuers have a potential to be with that patient for several hours or even overnight in a worst-case scenario. The responding providers must be able to see past the presenting ailment and know what will or could happen in the next 12 to 24 hours as the problem progresses. 3, the environment that the patients find themselves in isn't always the most hospitable. The third type of response, where the wilderness team may be requested, is an agency assist. The snowmobiles and ATVs are a county resource that may be requested to assist any of our partner agencies or law enforcement to complete a mission. We can either deliver the machines or deploy with trained team members to support the operation. Knowing that operating a special response team can be cumbersome on a budget, we try to intelligently obtain our equipment. The Polaris RMK snowmobile was purchased new in the summer of 2009 and the Yamaha Rhino new in 2012. The Skidoo Scandic was purchased used in the winter of 2010, and the Yamaha Kodiak was purchased used from the Bonner County Noxious Weed Department in the fall of 2012. The Rhino is also the vehicle of choice for the bike path between the Long Bridge and Highway 200 and has been utilized at special events ranging from Lost in the 50s to the triathlon in Priest Lake. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of our special response team.
Hi, I'm Mark Zandhusen. I'm the Clinical Operations Captain for the Bonner County EMS System. So far you've seen many aspects of how we provide EMS to the citizens of Bonner County through the collaborative efforts of our system partners. Through those efforts, we've become a leader in the provision of rural and wilderness EMS. However, not everything is an emergency. Sometimes people just call 911 because that's all they know. When we respond to a 911 call, it's not because it's an actual emergency that needs to be transported to the hospital. It's more of a call for help. Fire departments, for years, they've been around since the 1800s, they fought fires. They realized early on that prevention is the key to a healthier community. So they went out and did a lot of preventative services so that there are fewer fires now that they're responding on and more of the preventative type things that they're doing because of the technology and the fire prevention techniques and education that they do. There are less house fires, thereby saving more lives. We want to do the same thing with emergency services. We think that we would love it if we would work ourselves out of a job, that 911 is not our primary, that eventually 911 would not be our primary duty, that more preventative services and keeping the community healthy would be a lot more of what we do. It is our job to respond to 911 calls, but it's also, we believe, our job to do more preventative care and keep the community, thereby keeping the community healthier. There are a lot of healthcare gaps that were identified when we did our 2012 healthcare analysis of the county, and there are a lot of gaps in there that can be met by EMTs and paramedics. Bonner County EMS has what we call a high acuity level, meaning that the calls that we do, the people are very sick that we go on. So we train all the time to take care of these high acuity calls, but there's a low call volume. We aren't running calls all the time. One call may take us 4 or 5 hours, but we're not running calls 24 hours a day. So there is some time in there where we're doing training and other things where we would be able to go out and visit these patients. We have a scope of practice that is set by our medical director and the Physicians Commission of the state of Idaho. So we have a certain set of skills that we can utilize, and the community paramedic doesn't really expand on any of those skills, but they are the eyes and ears of the physician out in the field. So consider Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones has got a congestive heart failure problem. She goes into the hospital. She's seen in the hospital and treated in the hospital for about 4 days. She stays in the hospital. She gets better because we have such excellent care here. And then on discharge, she's given 17 different medications and prescriptions. And when you're in the hospital, you just want to get out of there. It's like, I've been here for 3 days, get me out of this place. So they give her the discharge papers and they send her home. She says, oh yes, I understand everything, I'll just sign these papers, just get me out of here, I want to go home. So she goes home, and then when she goes home, she has this nice diet that the dietitian has given her, and she looks at it and says, oh my gosh, goes to the cupboard and says, there's nothing but potato chips in here, there's none of these things on this diet, I just don't, so I'm just going to eat what I have, and I'm going to take these medicines. I think I kind of remember how I'm supposed to take these medicines, but I'm not sure. So she takes the medicines like she's supposed to, and 4 days later, she's calling 911 because she can't breathe very well. Her lungs are starting to fill up with fluids, and she's in trouble. So she calls 911. We arrive, red lights and sirens, take care of her. We treat her symptoms on the way to the hospital. We pack her up in the ambulance, we transport her over to the emergency room to see the physician over there. This is what we do currently. Community paramedicine means that we can do the right thing, what we feel is the right thing for our patients. So we show up on the scene, we treat the patient symptomatically, we take care of all their symptoms, they're feeling a lot better before we're ready to go, and then we make a phone call to the emergency department, talk to the physician that's on duty, who's our medical control, we contract with for medical control, and instead of transporting that patient to the hospital, talk to in consult with the physician, make an appointment with a primary care physician the next day. She gets to stay home, thereby avoiding an ambulance trip and a trip to the emergency room, and she sees her primary care physician the next day. One of the things that a community paramedic can do is visit these people in their homes. Paramedics make house calls. We make house calls in EMS all the time. And we could go and visit these patients in their homes and help them better understand their treatment plans that are given to them by the hospital. So for instance, on discharge, when the patient gets discharged, we'd like to become part of the discharge planning process at the hospital, where they are going through a process and saying, well, Mrs. Jones, you're going to go home, here's your medication, and we'd like some follow-up with you, but we see that you don't qualify for hospice, we see you don't qualify for home health, but you would qualify for a community paramedic to come and visit you and do a med reconciliation and help you understand how these medicines work and thereby keeping you out of the hospital. The sweet spot with community paramedicine is that we can hopefully lower the overall cost of your health care in Bonner County. EMS has been an untapped resource for many years. Most people think that 911 is all we do. But in the background, there are many things that we can do with the time that we have to help prevent a lot of the 911 calls that we go on.
Hi, Rob Wakely, Chief of Bonner County EMS, back for one last time. I'm outside the Stimson Lumber Company in Priest River. And now it's time to talk about our finances. Now that we've introduced you to the people, shown you the places, and you've taken a look at the equipment, it all costs money. And over the next few slides, I'm going to demonstrate how much in ambulance district tax income we're taking in, what that's costing per household and per person, how much in billing income that we're collecting when we actually bring patients to the hospital, and how that all breaks down into expenses. We're also going to show you how many people we have working for us and how much everyone is paid. One more thing though, I want to assure you that the cost of producing this video was very low. We used our own very inexpensive camera and even less expensive video software suite, and we did all the work ourselves. After I deliver the finance message, I'll be back and you'll see me one last time before the video ends. As you can see, we will bring in $2.4 million in tax revenue this year, and that comes to $185 per household and almost $60 per person based on the 2010 census population data. We'll also collect about $600,000 in patient billing income, bringing our total budget to $3 million. We appreciate how expensive this is and hope this video has shown you the value we deliver for your generous support. This next slide shows how we're spending that $3 million budget. You can see the largest amounts are salaries and the contract fees we pay our partner agencies. Our partner agencies provide ambulance services in the more remote areas of the county. The majority of them receive $25,000 a year plus whatever patient billing they can collect. These two items alone make up just short of $2.1 million, which comes very close to using most of our tax revenue. Other expenses include leases on our Sandpoint and Priest River stations, leases on 2 fairly new ambulances, and the final payment on a $1 million loan made to Bonner County EMS back in 2006. Also, we have contracts to pay our medical director and billing company, fees paid to the county for 911 dispatch and insurance, vehicle expenses, medical supplies, and all the other sundry of items required to keep this agency operating. This shows the amount we pay each person. The full-time staff includes 1 chief, 1 deputy chief, 1 office manager, 3 shift captains, 6 paramedics, and 14 advanced EMTs. This represents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week staffing of 3 ambulances and 2 paramedic fly cars. Staffing levels have not only not increased, but they've actually decreased by 1 since 2009. Well, we've now come to the very end of the video, and I really hope that you're as proud of what we've done in Bonner County with EMS services as we are. And I want to sincerely thank you for your time and attention.